Are you looking for some stretches to relieve tightness in the inner thigh, groin, and hip region? Maybe you are feeling tight from a really good workout or after just getting back into movement, or maybe even feel tightness or soreness just from sitting or maybe from a previous injury. Well, in this video, you're going to be learning 5 great stretches which target that region. Welcome to Eat and Live Free. I'm Alisia Young, and I'm a nutrition and movement educator. On this channel, I educate about nutrition, in particular, overcoming junk food and processed food dependency. There's also information about overcoming emotional eating. To add, there are mindful movement practices, workouts, and meditations. If this sounds like what you're looking for, subscribe and click the bell to be notified of any new videos. With any types of movement, ensure that you're checking in with your healthcare practitioners who are supporting you in your care, especially when it comes to physical movement. And for all these stretches, listen to your body, especially if you have any injuries. And for these stretches in particular, that includes hips, groin, knees, and ankles. So for these stretches, all you need is a mat, but you can also add props, for example, 2 or more blocks and a bolster. Now let's stretch. For the goddess pose, you can kind of liken it to a squat, although it is slightly different. And so for the goddess pose, you're going to start with your feet wider than hip width apart. And you'll feel it out as you're getting into it to see what feels best for you. And you'll make sure that you're pointing your toes outward. I like to point them at a 45-degree angle towards the edges of my mat, but some people like to turn their feet out a little bit more. So do what feels good. And as we get into the position, you're going to imagine yourself sliding straight down a wall. So we're just going to take our hips down towards the ground, making sure our knees are still directly over our ankles. And you'll feel a nice stretch in the inner thigh area. Now in the goddess pose, you can also add arm positionings, but right now we're just going to be focusing on the inner thigh region. You can also slide up and take it down, and you can hold it if you want to, feel that stretch more. And you can also, play with how close your legs are towards each other to see where you feel that stretch. But very important, keep those knees lined up over the ankles and make sure they never go beyond your toes. And you want to keep your hips so that you're imagining your hips coming straight down. So we don't want our hips to be shifting forward because that's going to bring our knees forward, and that's not safe for our joints. We also don't want to be taking the hips back into a squat because that's not what the purpose of this particular movement is. For the lateral stretch, meaning side stretch, we're going to start with our feet wider than hip width apart. With all these stances, you want to feel it out so that you feel that you're at a distance that feels good for you. So we're going to start by leaning over to one side. So I'm going to lean over to my right, so that might be your left side. And we're just straightening out. So you'd be straightening out your right leg, I'm straightening out my left leg, and I'm shifting my hips and my torso over to the right side. So I'm shifting my legs, my body over to the right side. And I'm just stretching out the inner thigh of the left leg. So for you, it will be the right leg. And we're going to come back to center, and we're just going to lean over. So you're going to keep that foot. Both feet are flat on the mat. You're just going to take your time and lean over. Now I'm going to add blocks because a variation that I love using in yoga classes is to take the blocks, place them directly in front of you so they're along your center, so they're equally distanced from each other. And here, this time you're going to keep your feet as well facing forward. We're going to lean forward at our hips, reaching down for the blocks and getting comfortable distance. We're just going to lean from side to side. So here, I find using the blocks lets me get deeper into the pose, but always making sure that our knees are behind our toes. And then to come back up, we accordion our feet back to the center and taking our time to roll back up. Our next pose is our frog pose. So As you can imagine, we're going to be looking like a frog. We're going to start from our child's pose position. So coming from a tabletop, we're going to take our hips back towards our heels, extending those arms forward. And from here, we're going to take our feet out towards the edges of the mat. So even from just doing that movement, you'll start to feel the stretch in your inner thighs. So a variation or a modification that a lot of people like to do is just keep their feet together, their toes together, and just feel the stretch in that way. But if you want to deepen the stretch, you'll just take your feet out towards the edges of the mat, and you can lean back. And you can play with leaning forward as you take your knees out towards the sides and then taking your hips back. Now, it's really important to make sure that you are not on a slippery surface, because to protect your groin and inner thigh region, you don't want to slip and have your legs split out in a non-controlled fashion. So as you can see here, this floor is a little bit slippery as it's hardwood compared to the gripping of the mat. So just make sure you're monitoring your surface so that, and also monitoring the clothing that you're wearing so that you can be controlled and safe as you are deepening or easing up in your stretches. Next stretch is one of my favorite stretches. Feels delicious. This is the pigeon pose. So I'm going to show you this pose starting from a lunge position, but you can also start from a tabletop position, and you can also start from a downward facing dog position. I'll also show you with using blocks and with using a bolster if you'd like. So if I'm going to come into the pigeon pose without using any props at all, I prefer to come into it from the tabletop position. So coming down onto the mat, into tabletop, we'll do the pigeon pose on the right side. So we're going to take the knee, the right knee, and bring it in between that space between our hands. So I'm just going to lean forward, slide that right knee up. And next is, if we want to, depending on how we want to deepen the pose, you can bring that foot, so your right foot, up towards the top of the mat. And you want to bring it up to max, having it parallel to the mat. So I'm going to gently slide my foot, as you can see. And as I'm sliding my foot forward, I'm taking my left leg back so I can get comfortable into the pose. So sometimes there's a little bit of shifting involved. And I'm feeling it on my outer hip, but also on my inner thigh of my right leg. And then from here, you can deepen into the pose by leaning forward into it. If that's desired, you can also lean onto a prop as well. Now, sometimes adding a block can make the pose or stretch a little bit more comfortable for that leg, the glute, that's the focal point of being stretched. So let's do the same thing, but we'll add a block underneath. So this time I'll do my left leg instead of my right. So from tabletop position, bringing that left knee forward between both hands and shifting that right leg back as I get comfortable. And now I'm just gonna kind of bring that left foot up towards the top of the mat, stopping at where that leg position is comfortable. So for me, it's comfortable at about a 45-degree angle. And taking the block, just gonna slide it underneath that glute. And so this can help to be more comfortable. If you're working on flexibility, that helps to get your body into the appropriate alignment and then also help you to get more comfortable in the stretch. My absolute favorite way to do this stretch is with a bolster. But when using the bolster, I get into the position in a different way. So I like to do it from a low lunge position. So this time I'm going to be doing the right leg. So coming into that low lunge, I'm going to start by placing the bolster underneath my leg. So I'm placing it where, if I were to sit down, my thigh and my glute would be resting on the bolster. And so now I'm just going to walk my foot along the bolster as I gently lean to sit onto the bolster. And again, the left leg is just starting to stretch back to where it's comfortable. So really, I'm using the bolster as a support to apply my weight so I can just focus on melting into the pose. And then from here, you can lean forward if you'd like. You can add a block and you can just melt and enjoy the pose. You can feel it in the inner thighs along with the outer hip as well. And to come back up with any of these poses, you're just going to take your time to come out and being extra cautious if you are using props. Our final stretch is bound angle pose, also known as butterfly stretch. So for this, we're sitting down and you can start with your legs cross-legged and then bring your feet together to meet each other. So with this pose or stretch, you can really play with where your feet positioning are. You can shift your feet forward, out more, or you can bring them back closer to you. That will shift where you're feeling the stretch. And so to do the stretch, you can hold it here if you'd like. You can apply some pressure along the inner angles of your knees, just on the muscular parts. So you can press down gently with your elbows and you can lean forward at the hips and you'll feel that stretch in there as well. Sometimes people do not enjoy the feeling of their knees floating up like this, especially if you're getting used to the stretch or if you're working on your flexibility. So for this, you can add the blocks underneath your knees so you can get more comfortable with the stretch. Thank you for tuning in to these 5 stretches for the inner thighs, groin, and hip region. I hope you enjoyed them and found them helpful. Comment below to let us know which one you like the most, and also feel free to mention if there's any other stretches or regions that you'd like to stretch and learn more about. Also, if you're interested in more information about my programs, check the link in the description below. Thank you for tuning in and looking forward to seeing you in the next video. And remember to keep on stretching.